Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show
with Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am your host, Joey Harris. Folks, this is the podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. How's your week been, folks? Are you all doing okay out there? I tell you what, if I never have to go to another virtual meeting, I'm good. I am almost virtual meetinged out myself. I don't know about you guys. And in the wrestling world, a 2-night WrestleMania, is that a good or a bad thing? I don't know. It all depends on how it works out. This is going to be a bizarre presentation, to be sure. I've heard that there might be multiple endings shot to keep people on their toes as to what the finishes are going to be. Is this like a choose-your-own ending WrestleMania? Is that what we are going to? It's definitely going to be interesting. Now, Roman Reigns pulling out. I've heard that The Miz pulled out. Other people maybe pulling out. Andrade apparently is out. So it's going to be an interesting time to be sure. I caffeinated myself this week due to social distancing. I finally had to get out. I'm like, I'm not going to go to anyone's house. I'm not going to go visit anything. But I needed to get out and ride around. And I put the Tim Hortons app on my phone so that I could pay for coffee, get it, not have to really do any interaction with someone. They just hand me the coffee and I go. We don't exchange money or anything. So I did that and I was on the way. And by the time I got there, the hours had changed and it had not been reflected really on the app or on the website. And so I had paid for this coffee that I then couldn't pick up. A couple of days later, I had to go out to a doctor's appointment that was still on. So afterwards, same thing again. The woman comes up and says, "We have 2 Joeys here. Which one is you?" I'm like, "Actually, they're both me," and explained it to her. She's like, "Well, you've paid for them. Do you want both iced coffees?" "Absolutely, I want both iced coffees." And so I got both iced coffees. Iced coffees to go. That afternoon, I got a lot accomplished because I was just riding that over-caffeinated wave. And cabin fever has started to kick in. It has started to set in big time. My allergies are starting to act up. There was a couple of times I just had to walk away because I almost lost it this week. And there was one time I did lose it. I don't mind telling you. I had just reached my limit. So you walk away, you let it out, and then you come back. But today we are looking at WWF SummerSlam 88. SummerSlam 88 plays on August the 29th, 1988 from Madison Square Garden in New York City. We start off with the classic WWF, What the World is Watching promo. We then have our opening credits. Gorilla Monsoon welcomes us to SummerSlam and tells us we can cut the electricity with the night, so right off the bat, folks, you can start drinking at home. He and Superstar Billy Graham are your announcers for the event. The crowd seems pumped. Now, a lot of people complain about Billy Graham on commentary, but he's enthusiastic and earnest, and that goes farther than all the polish in the world. Now, he does say Gorilla Monsoon, brother, about 275,000 times. But there are some times he makes a good point. It's just his presentation is slightly off. I will take Superstar Billy Graham over Art Donovan any day of the week, twice on Sunday. The Fabulous Rougeaus, Jack and Ramon, versus the British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith with Matilda. The Rougeaus have recently turned heel. Davey Boy Smith comes out attacking. Rougeaus come back. Quick tags by the Bulldogs and good sequences by both teams. The Rougeaus cheat well. Crowd gets sucked into this match. Dynamite Kid can't get the pin, although he strings together a nice series of moves. Davey Boy Smith hits a power slam, but Jacques saves Raymond. The Rougeau brothers with some nice double teaming and tag team wrestling. Close pin attempts. They speed things up towards the end. The Dynamite Kid has Jacques pinned, but time expires and we get a draw. The British Bulldogs chase the Rougeau brothers to the back. They flash back to Ron Bass attacking Brutus Beefcake, knocking him out of SummerSlam. Bad News Brown versus Ken Patera. Bad News Brown attacks before Patera has a chance to get his ring jacket off. Patera looks like a jacked up Richard Simmons here. Brown dominates. Patera fights back. Tries some pin attempts. Goes for the full Nelson a couple of times, but Brown gets to the ropes. Back and forth. Patera rams his shoulder onto the post, and Brown hits the Ghetto Blaster for the win. Mean Gene Okerlund interviews the Mega Powers and Miss Elizabeth. Hulk Hogan is ready. The Mega Powers are ready. They talk about the secret weapon. Rick Rude with Bobby Heenan versus the Junkyard Dog. Rude has JYD airbrushed on his tights. JYD is past his prime but comes out hot. Rude comes back and grabs a chin lock. JYD comes back. Rude goes back to the chin lock. JYD powers out. Heenan interferes. Rude hits the neck breaker and a fist drop. He pulls his tights down and has Cheryl Roberts on a pair of tights underneath. Jake Roberts comes out and attacks Rude for the disqualification. Mean Gene interviews the Honky Tonk Man and Jimmy Hart. Honky Tonk Man says he's ready to defend the Intercontinental title against anyone. The Bolsheviks Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zhukov with Slick versus the Powers of Pain, the Barbarian and the Warlord with the Baron. The Baron is Baron von Raschke, who's wearing a kind of a hooded over thing. He's not fully masked, but he has a hood on. Volkov does the anthem gimmick. The Powers of Pain come out hot. They dominate the Bolsheviks. Slick distracts the Warlord. Heels cheat for the advantage. The Powers of Pain come back. The Barbarian hits some big kicks and they hit the Power Slam headbutt combo for the win. The Brother Love Show segment. Originally the guest was going to be Ric Flair. Bruce Pritchard has talked about this a couple times on Something to Wrestle. Then Flair decides to stay with Jim Crockett Promotions, so they talked about Jessica Hahn. It ends up being Hacksaw Jim Duggan. This degenerates quickly. Duggan eventually runs Brother Love off. WWF Intercontinental Championship match. The Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart versus the Ultimate Warrior. Since Beefcake is out, HTM calls for anyone else to come out. The crowd goes wild when the Warrior's music hits. A slam, tackle, and a splash later, and we have a new champion. This was absolutely the right thing to do here. They take an intermission, and when they come back, Bobby Heenan comes to the booth. He riles Gorilla and Superstar up. Don Morocco versus Dino Bravo with Frenchie Martin. Heenan stays on for commentary. Slow to start. Bravo on the offensive. Morocco coming back and forth. Morocco starts to come back, but Bravo hits a side suplex for the win. Sean Mooney is here, and he interviews Jesse Ventura about his role as the special referee for the main event. Jesse says he is the only man who can be the ref. If the $1 Million Man wants to give him money, who is he to refuse? I'm with you, Jesse. WWF World Tag Team Championship match. Demolition, Axe, and Smash with Mr. Fuji versus the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart, and Jim Neidhart. This is the first of 3 SummerSlams that the Hart Foundation will be taking on the tag team champions. Here and at SummerSlam 90, it's against Demolition. SummerSlam 89, it's against the Brainbusters, who were the tag team champions, although it was a non-title match. The Harts have recently turned face, although they say that Jimmy Hart still owns the contract. Jimmy Hart accompanies Demolition to the ring to continue the angle that he still owns part of the Hart Foundation's contracts. Power versus speed. Axe versus Bret to begin. Then Power versus Power. The Hart Foundation is winning early, but Demolition comes back. They are using great tag team moves. They also double team very well. Bret Hart takes a beating, and finally Neidhart gets to tag in. He cleans house, and Madison Square Garden comes alive. He only gets a 2 count. Fuji climbs up and gets nailed, allowing Axe to hit Bret with Jimmy Hart's megaphone. Smash makes the pin. Mean Gene interviews Honky Tonk Man, who is irate. He says it's his belt and he's going to get it back. The Big Boss Man with Slick versus Coco Beware with Frankie. Boss Man attacks Coco, who then comes back. Boss Man again dominates. He picks Coco up before the 3 count. He punishes Coco, who mounts a small comeback. He hits the top rope dropkick and the crowd explodes. He can't get the 3 count though. Boss Man hits the sidewalk slam and pins Coco. Sean Mooney interviews the Ultimate Warrior. He does a typical Warrior interview. Hercules versus Jake Roberts. Hercules strikes early. Roberts goes for the DDT, but Hercules bails. Roberts grabs a headlock. Hercules comes back and batters Roberts and gets a 2 count. He throws a chin lock on Roberts. Roberts powers out but gets thrown. Comes back and tosses Hercules out. Roberts hits the short clothesline. Hercules hits a backdrop. Roberts finally gets the DDT and gets the pin. He goes for Damien and puts him on Hercules. Flashback to what led up to the main event for the show, including Jesse being assigned as special referee. Gorilla and Superstar talk about the upcoming event. Jesse gets announced as the special guest referee. He gets a nice crowd reaction. The Mega Bucks, Ted DiBiase and Andre the Giant with Virgil and Bobby Heenan versus the Mega Powers, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth. The faces come out to Savage's music. Jesse orders managers out of the ring and switches the tag rope corners. Savage and Andre start, but DiBiase quickly tags in. Then Hogan comes in. DiBiase sells for both Savage and Hogan. Andre cheats to get the advantage for the heels. Hogan chant goes out. Heels punish Hogan for a while. He comes back, then both men down after a double clothesline. Savage in and he goes after DiBiase. Andre comes in and punishes Savage with his huge girth. DiBiase in and also punishes Savage. He tags Hogan in. Hogan cleans house. Hogan puts the sleeper on DiBiase and gets taken out by Andre. Liz stalls Jesse while the Mega Powers are on the floor. Liz then takes off her skirt and shows her underwear. Hogan slams DiBiase and Savage gives him the elbow. Hogan then gives him the leg drop. Jesse reluctantly counts the pin. The crowd goes crazy. Hogan must pose. If you watch the celebration here, Randy Savage begins a subtle heel turn. The crowd is celebrating as we go off the air. If you like the show, please leave a review on whatever platform you use. It helps more people find the show, and I would really appreciate it. There are a number of ways that you can contact me. You can follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I am at the Joey Harris. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey Harris saying so long from Stately, Maine Manor.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.